He didn't just betray me. He betrayed my father's legacy. When my father died, I thought the hardest part would be learning to live without him. I never imagined the real heartbreak would come from the man I had vowed to spend forever with. My name is Emma Caldwell. I'm 36 years old, and up until recently I believed I had a fortunate life. I was married to Tom, a man who, at first, made me believe in forever. Chapter 1. The Illusion. We met 8 years ago at a conference in Chicago. I worked in event marketing. He was a keynote speaker, charismatic, confident, and charming. Or so I thought. A week after meeting him, I told my dad. "He seems solid," I said over breakfast. My dad, always a cautious man, gave a thoughtful pause. "Some people shine under stage lights and dim in real life," he said. I laughed it off. Dad had been protective ever since Mom died when I was 20. He raised me alone. He was my anchor, and the visionary behind Caldwell & West, the company he built from nothing. Tom and I married 2 years later. It was a quiet wedding, close friends and family. My father walked me down the aisle with tears in his eyes and pride in his chest. Tom's mother, Diane, wore a designer dress and a permanent frown. From day one, she made it clear I wasn't the daughter-in-law she'd dreamed of. "She's nice," I overheard her whisper to Tom at the rehearsal dinner, "but she doesn't look like CEO material." Still, I tried. Flowers on Mother's Day, invitations to dinners, thoughtful gestures. But Diane never warmed. And Tom? He always dismissed her comments as harmless quirks. Chapter 2. The Loss That Revealed Everything. 6 years into our marriage, my dad was diagnosed with cancer. 4 months later, he was gone. He passed quietly in his sleep. I wasn't ready, not even close. The funeral was everything he would have wanted. Understated, respectful. Tom stood by me, distracted more than grieving. Diane arrived late, sunglasses on, and left before the service ended. The very next day, my father's attorney called. "We need to discuss the estate," he said. I expected modest properties, a few investments. Instead, I inherited everything: the business, the real estate, the accounts. Over $35 million? That night, I sat on our couch, legal documents scattered across the coffee table, too numb to celebrate. My inheritance wasn't a gift. It was a tombstone. Tom came home, glanced at the papers, and gave a low whistle. "So it's true," he said. "It's really all yours." Then he smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "We should talk about what to do with it," he said. "Maybe buy that Aspen place, and of course, we'll need to figure out how much to give Mom." I blinked. "What?" "My mom," he said. "She's family. We should give her half." I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. "Tom, this is an inheritance from my father. Why would we give half to your mother?" "Because she raised me alone. She sacrificed. She's family." That was the first crack. A hairline fracture in everything I thought I understood about the man I married. Chapter 3. Entitlement wears a smile. "Tom," I said, "my dad didn't leave this to us. He left it to me. It's not a windfall, it's his life's work." He scoffed. "Don't be selfish, Emma. She deserves something." "No," I said, "she doesn't. And the fact that you're asking tells me you never respected what my dad built." The next day, I received a call from Diane. "Emma, sweetheart," she said in that syrupy tone, "I heard the news. I'm so proud of you." I braced myself. "I know this might sound awkward, but since you're coming into all that money, I thought maybe we could sit down and talk numbers. I've got some ideas. Real estate. A tasteful new place for me. Nothing extravagant." I clenched the phone. "You want to talk numbers? My dad died less than a week ago." "Yes. And he would want you to take care of family. That's what good wives do." "Diane," I said coldly, "with all due respect, you are not my family. And the fact that you're asking now says everything about your character." She paused, then her voice changed. "You always thought you were too good for us. Let's see how long you last when you're all alone, sweetheart." Click. That night, Tom confronted me. "You had no right to speak to my mother that way," he said. "She had no right to ask for money." He snapped. "She's my only family. You're acting like a hoarder." I stared at him. "No, I'm acting like a daughter mourning her father while being surrounded by vultures." And in that moment, I knew my marriage wasn't just crumbling, it was over. Chapter 4. The Quiet Exit Plan. I got quiet, strategic. I met with a second attorney, set up a private account, installed security cameras on my lawyer's advice. He'd seen cases like mine. "Install them now," he said, "especially if someone thinks they're entitled to half." 2 days later, I caught Diane rifling through my desk. "Oh, Emma," she said with a fake laugh, "just looking for a notepad." Her hand hovered over my locked drawer. That night, I told Tom, "Your mother was in my office. She was curious." "No," I said. "She was snooping." "You're paranoid." "No, I'm prepared." The next week, I hired a PI. Diane had over 100 Ks in credit card debt, failed ventures, and recently, she'd tried opening a luxury skincare line with zero capital. Now her interest made sense. Suddenly, Tom turned affectionate. Flowers, home-cooked meals, soft kisses. "Let's get away," he said. "Just us. Forget the stress." But I saw through it. It wasn't love, it was a setup. "I think I'll pass," I replied calmly. The next morning, I noticed my laptop had been moved. Slightly, but enough. I checked login activity. 2 failed password attempts. Chapter 5. The End Game. That was it. That was the final nail. I gathered every file, every piece of footage. I documented everything. And then, I filed for divorce. The trust was gone. The love, an illusion. What remained was my father's legacy, and I would defend it with everything I had. Epilogue. People say grief changes you, but my father used to say, grief doesn't change people, it reveals them. Tom and Diane weren't changed by the inheritance, they were revealed. And as for me, I didn't just walk away stronger, I walked away wiser, and finally, free. When my father died, I thought the hardest part would be learning to live without him. But the real heartbreak came from the man I had promised to spend the rest of my life with. The beginning of the end. The night. The camera light flickered on. I knew something was wrong. It was subtle, just a moment, but unmistakable. Tom denied it, of course. "Must have been a glitch," he shrugged. I didn't argue. I simply changed my passwords again and followed my lawyer's next piece of advice. Document everything. Every word, every move, every shift in tone. Because when I walked away, I wouldn't just leave. I'd take proof. 3 days after he tried and failed to break into my laptop, Tom stopped pretending altogether. The mask was off. No more flowers, no more apologies, no more charm. He just hovered, watching, waiting, as if he sensed control slipping away and had no idea how to stop it. Diane's final act. If Tom withdrew, Diane charged forward. I found her one morning, barefoot in my kitchen robe barely closed, sipping my coffee like she owned the place. She'd used the emergency key, one Tom had supposedly given to the dog walker. "Emma," she said sweetly, "we need to talk." "You need to leave," I replied. She didn't move. "I'm just worried you'll do something impulsive," she said. "You're grieving. You might make a financial mistake." I laughed. A cold, bitter sound. "You mean like not handing over millions to a woman who hasn't worked in a decade and calls me greedy behind my back?" Her eyes narrowed. "Careful, Emma. It's not wise to make enemies in your own home. I stepped closer. This house isn't yours. Neither is the money. Get out, before I call the police. She glared but left, and I locked the door behind her. For the last time. The turning point, I called my lawyer. It's time, I told him. I want to move forward. The divorce papers were drawn, quietly, strategically. Half of my inheritance had already been moved to a protected trust, untouchable in divorce thanks to how my father structured his estate. The rest, still technically joint, needed to be moved swiftly. That night I told Tom we should meet at a neutral spot, a cafe, public, controlled. He looked suspicious but agreed. I arrived early, sat at a corner table. The papers were in my bag. So was a flash drive with everything, screenshots, recordings, the video of Diane rifling through my office. Tom arrived late with a practiced smile. What's this about? I slid the envelope across the table. Divorce papers. His face twitched. Is this a joke? No, I said. This is me saying I'm done. He laughed, but it was hollow. You're serious? Over money? No. Over betrayal. Over disrespect. Over watching you treat my father's death like a lottery win. He leaned in, anger simmering. I supported you for years. I was there through everything. And now you're throwing me away. You threw yourself away the moment you chose your mother over your wife. He slammed his hand on the table. People turned. You think you can just walk away with everything? I'm entitled to half. That's the law. I smiled. Actually, no. My inheritance is separate property. You have no claim to it, not a cent. He paled. You're bluffing. I set the flash drive on the table. Every word, every manipulation, every attempt to guilt me, recorded. Push me, and the court will hear it all. He stared at it like it might burn him. I'm offering you a fair settlement, I said. Take what we legally built together, nothing more. Tom said nothing. He took the envelope and left. That night, I changed the locks, sent Diane a cease and desist through my lawyer, blocked them both everywhere. And for the first time in weeks, I slept. Not just in silence, in peace. The pushback. But peace didn't last. 3 days later, Tom filed for spousal support. He claimed he'd supported my emotional well-being during the marriage and now deserved compensation. I wanted to laugh. This was the man who tried to pressure me into giving his mother millions, who belittled my grief, who let his mother invade my home. But I didn't panic. I was ready. We responded with everything. Failed password attempts, video of Diane in my office, audio recordings of Tom calling me selfish, dramatic, a hoarder, messages from Diane hinting at financial planning. My lawyer filed it all. Then the harassment started. Blocked calls, emails from fake accounts, voicemails like, Emma, you're ruining everything. This isn't how family treats each other. And another, you'll regret this. But I didn't. I went to work. I started therapy, I took long walks, read books, watched the sun rise, and I healed. Alone, but free. Meanwhile, Tom spiraled. He moved back in with Diane, who had just defaulted on another credit card. They'd been talking to a shady financial advisor about flipping houses, with no capital. Tom had quit. His job a week after my dad died, assuming he'd live off the inheritance. Now, no job, no house, even the car he drove, repossessed.